In a massive exclusive, the Sri Lankan Prime Minister Wickremesinghe has spoken with Miranow's Amita Balachandra. The PM admitted to a breakdown of intelligence that led to the terror attack we witnessed on Easter Sunday, and he said the information was shared but action that should have been taken was not taken. The Prime Minister has asserted that the country is returning to normal. He also told Miranav how he hopes to resume masses on Sunday, schools to reopen and life to come back to normal as quickly as possible. Take a look.
Most of the perpetrators and their accomplices have been taken in, but not all. We are working on trying and getting all of them in, just to be on the safe side, tracing everything, the bags, all. Country is coming back to normal. We are hoping that the prayers will take place on Friday, Mass on Sunday, schools will open on Monday. To go ahead, yeah, one or two places in the east we have some curfew on, but by and large eastern province is functioning.
Does the government also believe that a foreign mastermind was behind the attacks, that there was training conducted abroad? Because there was also a statement coming from the president.
We are looking at the connections out to the ISIS. Beyond that, inquiries are going on. Okay. There seems to be there is certainly extent of homegrown terrorism is the question. What is the link with outside?
Also, most recently, to a news agency, the US Embassy has said that there could be more imminent attacks before Ramadan. Is that something that you're looking at? Is there more investigation being conducted there?
No, investigations are going on. I think the worry was some of those on the run may resort to some explosions. Okay. That's why we are trying to we are working on rounding up everyone.
I would also want to ask you about intelligence, inputs being ignored. We've seen the IGP being sent on compulsory leave, Defense Secretary resigning. Do you believe that this was taken casually? Why was there misinformation?
Information was sent down, but the question is how did they act on it? Okay. Of course, I don't think anyone knew it's going to be this type of backpacker. We hadn't had this type of explosions to this extent, so there would have been different assessments, estimates of how this would take place. But certainly there has been a breakdown, we have to admit that.
And what further would happen now? Because a 3-member committee was also appointed by the president, and I believe an interim report has also been submitted. But will there be investigation as to why there was a security lapse?
No, the committee is going on, but what we are focusing on is what happened, how do you apprehend them, are there any other groups, because that's the way. One is looking at the past, other is looking at the present and ensuring the perpetrators are caught and there are no other groups that are functioning. That's how security will be measured. We have a fairly large, we have a number of intelligence agencies, we have a fairly large number on the ground. All are functioning.
And over 253 lives lost, more than 500 people injured. Sri Lanka has seen an unprecedented attack. Tell us this, what is going to happen going forward? You said that things are sort of coming back to normal. You've also said that perhaps new laws will be introduced. If you can tell us what kind of laws will be introduced, going forward.
Well, we have the counter-terrorism bill, which is in Parliament. We want that. The Ministry of Muslim Affairs is now preparing legislation for the Madras Education Board. They were all actually supervising it on administrative means. So we are looking at the laws that are necessary. We found a number of teachers who come here without the visas to teach. They've been sent back. Any other law that's necessary will be certainly presented to Parliament.
Also, if you can tell us, how long will the country take to bounce back? Because we've seen advisories coming in from the UK, US and India most recently, and you see a lot of Indian tourists here. So how long is that going to take to bounce back?
Well, the security authorities feel in the next 2 weeks they should be able to sort many of the issues out. And we also want to get the counter-terrorism bill in because that covers a lot of it. I think, as you said earlier, if the bill was there, we certainly could have covered a lot of them. I won't say all of them, but much more progress could have been made.
Well, Well, that was the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Wickremesinghe, speaking with Mirror Now exclusively to my colleague Amita Balachandra, who has been in Sri Lanka for the last week or so. Amita is on the phone line. Oh, Amita is live with us right now. Good evening, Amita. If you could just tell us a few things. Since you've landed in Colombo and you've traveled around, the country, we've seen things change. Curfews have been lifted. People have perhaps gone back to work. Shops have reopened. What is the mood right now in Colombo? Are people coming back to normal? Are things coming back to normal firstly?
Well, absolutely. However, there is heightened security. If I can just show you around, we're in Colombo right now, near the police headquarters. There's generally a strict vigil here, but we understand that the number of police personnel outside have been increased. Incidentally, there is also a hotel next to the police headquarters, and you'll see that bags are being checked at this point. There are two people who've just come in to go into the hotel, and this is something that has newly been introduced after the attacks. Bags are being checked in as people go inside hotels. And as far as streets are concerned, if I can just take you a little further, streets are mostly quiet, especially in the evening. But in the morning, things have slowly started to come back. We visited Peta Market just yesterday. We saw it bustling with activity. Once again, we saw people come back to work. We even went to the World Trade Center here. And things are sort of starting to come back to normal here in Colombo and Negombo. However, we also visited Betikolo, which is about 400 kilometers away from Colombo. There, the curfew still remains in 3 places, is what even the Prime Minister told us. As far as the eastern province is concerned, it still remains on the edge. But other parts of Sri Lanka slowly sort of coming back to normal. Schools to reopen, of course, on Monday. But however, Sunday masses after the attack will resume, is what we've been told.
Amita, you've just had a conversation with the Prime Minister of the country. What is his input right now in terms of the intelligence failure and why there was an intelligence failure of that magnitude in Sri Lanka? And what is he doing right now to make sure it doesn't happen again?
Well, first of all, as soon as this happened, as soon as they admitted, both the Prime Minister and the President admitted to the fact that there was an intelligence failure, the IGP was sent on compulsory leave. The Defense Secretary resigned. A new Defense Secretary has now been appointed. A 3-member committee was set up by the President soon after. An interim report, we understand, has now been submitted, and perhaps there will be more detail on what that report contains tomorrow. But the Prime Minister very clearly told us that there will be strong inquiry, and right now their focus is to strengthen further laws. There was delay in introducing the counter-terrorism bill, like he pointed out, in 2018. So that is going to be their top focus now, and increase security across. In fact, right after that interview, there was also another meeting, we understand, where a 3-pronged strategy to counter terrorism is being worked on here in Sri Lanka.
Amita, I have a couple of questions for you. In terms of tourism, and you did ask the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka what he's doing to bring tourism back, and I'm sure there are Indian tourists right now or Indian families who maybe planned their summer holidays in Sri Lanka wondering what to do. Have the tourists come back from where you are and your travels? Have you noticed tourists from other parts of the world beginning to trickle back?
Well, not really, Faye, because initially when this incident happened, there were a couple of tourists, but most of them were leaving the country. Not many Indian tourists or foreign tourists is what we see here in Sri Lanka. If you see, most of the streets are already quiet. The shops, in fact, haven't opened. Very few of them slowly is now starting to open. Several of them, in fact, questioned us whether things are sort of coming back to normal and what the media is hearing, so they know whether they should open their shops or not. So we've also been told that cancellations, in fact, as soon as this happened, went up, and Sri Lanka anyway sees a high number of Indian tourists, 20% arrivals according to the 2019 report. So that is something that they are looking at. But the Economic Affairs Minister earlier told us that they will start inviting foreign countries once things settle down here in Sri Lanka.
Amita, last question. There was a ban that was actioned in Sri Lanka against face veils or hijab, anything that prevents the police from recognizing or identifying people. Is that a temporary ban or is that now a permanent ban, and what reaction has there been on the ground?
That is a temporary ban, is what we've been told. In fact, the Economic Affairs Minister also tweeted, Harshad Solo has tweeted, saying that hijab is not banned, but burqa and niqab, anything that covers the complete face, is banned at this point, but temporarily. Even the Prime Minister admitted to the fact that there are certain regulations being formed. They've spoken to the main Muslim organization here, ACJU, asking them to come up with regulations, but this is under emergency regulations, the ban that is currently in place.
All right, Amita, thank you for the very amazing work that you've been doing from Sri Lanka, Amita, in fact, bringing us stories as Sri Lanka hobbles back to life and normalcy after those dastardly attacks that, just shook and shocked the world on Easter Sunday. She, in fact, was one of the few journalists who actually went into St. Anthony's Church, one of the places of the most brutal attacks, as they cleaned the blood off the walls a week after the investigation was complete and all of the evidence had been collected. For obviously the people who were cleaning that church and wiping blood off those walls, it was a terrible, terrible day. Amita Balachandra out of Colombo, bringing us an update on Sri Lanka.